You know, I was wondering, what would happen if I took a bunch of string lights like these, hung them up into the trees, and then mapped them in the computer so that they could play animations? And what would happen if I took that and then turned it into an interactive exhibit? I mean, that's just wild. You can't do that, can you? Well, today I'm going to break down how I hung up a bunch of string lights in trees and then turn it into a screen. I was contacted by the Cincinnati Nature Center to participate in their Light in the Forest festival that they hold each year. For this festival, we wanted to create a unique display that would be interactive and bigger than anything that had ever happened at that festival before. Our new creation was going to be called the Glow and Grow. We wanted to take these programmable string lights, hang them up in the trees, and then map them so that they would play animations across the tree line. We also wanted to make it interactive, so that across the field you can move in front of a camera and you would see your silhouette on the tree line as you moved. For a project this big, a design plan is essential. We need to control thousands of LEDs in real time. We also need to have a camera system that can accurately represent people's movements on the trees. Oh yeah, we also need to make sure that it can survive a month out in winter conditions. Should be easy, right? So here's a simplified overview of our whole design. We have a central control box that houses our computer and main control board. This then sends data to our breakout boxes that interprets that data and then powers and controls our string lights. First thing we had to do was lock in what kind of pixels we were going to be using. We found these string lights that run at 12 volt, they have individual control, and have a redundant data line in case any of them fail. Next, we need a way to control our pixels. For our last project, we used the Advotech control board. That worked great, so we're going to use that again for this project. Except for this time, we're going to use the long-range board. This long-range controller takes data from the computer and then breaks it up into Ethernet signal where it sends it to daughter boards. Those daughter boards then take that information and convert it into a signal that the LEDs can use. This allowed us to have the display be much bigger without having to worry about power drop-off over long distances. In our main box, we had a Mac Mini running our whole system. It was relatively cheap and compact, and it was easily able to handle our system. This computer lived in the main box along with our central control board and a network switch that connected the camera to the whole system. Let's jump to the breakout boxes and see how those were built. These breakout boxes connect to the main box via Ethernet. The daughter boards break out that information and convert it into a signal that the LEDs can use. Also inside the breakout box was a power supply and a fuse box to protect our strings. Now here's the point where I'm obligated to let you know I am not an electrician. When you work on projects of this scale, it's important to bring in professionals. This is Ryan. Ryan is my professional. We are thankful for Ryan. We found through testing that each of our outputs could reliably support 300 pixels in sequence without having to inject power at the end of the line. This meant that each of our breakout boxes could support 1,200 LEDs. With that testing and our budget, we were able to build 5 breakout boxes. That means that we were going to have 6,000 LEDs going up into the trees. Now around here, we like big numbers, especially when it comes to LEDs. So be sure to like and subscribe for more big numbers and big projects in the future. These breakout boxes were purpose-built with flexibility in mind. Theoretically, anytime in the future, we could take any 12-volt pixel and hook it up to this system and control them just as easily as we're controlling these string lights. We've built our system, and it's time to get the strings up into the trees. We used a rented lift to get the lights hung up. We started by deciding where the 5 breakout boxes were going to live, spread out along the 100-foot of tree line we will be covering. From there, the lights were hung without much plan, other than trying to distribute them as evenly as we could. It took 3 days. At this point, we're basically done, right? Just turn it on and go. Nope, that's not how it's going to go this time. I don't want lights going down the line, just blink, 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 blink with no cause or concern. No, I wanted trees to be a screen. And that would be the thought that came back to haunt me in the coming months when I decided to map the trees. So in normal pixel mapping, you take your fixtures and overlay them on an image. This is normally pretty easy because your fixtures have a defined shape and size. But what happens when your lights don't really have a shape to work with? Well, then you have to get creative with your mapping. We ultimately need a spline or CSV file that we can bring into Touch Designer to drive our display. I built a system inside Touch Designer that could step through these lights in a controllable increment. I chose 100 pixels per increment. I was then taking photos of each of these sets of strings going through the whole display. I then used these images inside my 3D software to trace our overall spline length. Once I had that entire spline, I was able to bring it inside Touch Designer, and then that's what we used for pixel mapping. We were able to use this spline inside Touch Designer to then project animations onto the spline and then create animations across the tree line. So one of the things we were most excited about with this exhibit was making it interactive. Our system on the back end was basically acting like a glorified display. We were projecting video onto these string lights and playing different animations. We could have put the camera at the base of the display, but at the base you can't really see all of the lights. So we decided that we would have the interactive space across the field where you can see the whole display. We just have to connect the camera across the field. Wait, how far is that? Oh, okay, we have to run that camera from pretty far away. Unfortunately, in this field, power wasn't very easy to come by. So we needed to find a system that could both power our camera and then send the data across that long of a distance. We needed power over Ethernet. We found a security camera that can run off of PoE and a network switch that can supply it. We then built a custom cable that can run across the field and is under the limit of PoE. We now have a video feed going into Touch Designer. But how do we use this video to change the lights of our display? We decided to use a feature of this camera to our advantage. When it gets dark enough outside, these IR LEDs turn on and turn the image to black and white. Anytime you're able to get a black and white image from a source, you can use it as a matte. A matte will allow us to mix videos together. We take two sources, and anything that is white will show one source, while anything that is black will show the other source. I used two looping videos as my source. One was a simple noise pattern acting as stars flickering to keep the display active. The other was a colorful mix of looping patterns. This made it so that anytime someone stepped into the camera view, it would light up the trees with a colorful silhouette. Now we have a complete system. The camera captures patron movements and drives the effects as a video source. This video is mapped onto our pixels using our custom mapping. That data is then sent out to our control board, which then sends the data out to our breakout boxes. These boxes then power and drive our pixels. With all of that, we have an interactive art exhibit. Now it's time to sit back and watch people enjoy the display. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed the deep dive into our project process. And if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe so that you can see more of our future projects.